History tells us that we've been fishing here in our streams and oceans for thousands of years. But over the last century and a half, more of us with better tools and improved technology are putting a strain on California that we all love. Today, with 38 million Californians, treating our resources wisely is an incredible challenge. Hi, I'm Tom Raftican and welcome to Real World Conservation. The concept behind Real World is simple. We hope to explore solutions to resource challenges that balance our sustainable use of resources while still ensuring a vibrant future for our kids. We'll not only look at fish, but habitat including our oceans, reefs, estuaries, and streams. And in addition to checking out these ecosystems, we'll chat with fishermen and other experts to shed some light on practical solutions that work today and yet serve us well into the future. Join us as we check out some great fishing and real-world conservation. Welcome to Real World Conservation. Tom Raftican here, another time getting together with you, and I've got a great show for you this evening. But before we get into the show, I want to give a little bit of background about some of the stuff that we've been doing lately. We just got done with a best practices workshop. It was over the East Coast, but really great things coming out and finding better ways for recreational fishermen to sit down and practice our sport. And we learn a little bit from the scientists, we learn a little bit from the fishermen, so pretty interesting stuff. Now, with that, we've got a great guest this evening from the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, Chris Mobley. And Chris, we're going to talk to him a little bit about best practices in Sanctuary Classic. But Chris, welcome to Real World.
Hi, Tom. I'm glad to be here. Really good to have you on the show.
Chris, you've been the Sanctuary Superintendent for Channel Islands for a while now, right?
Since fall of 2002, so almost, almost 11 years.
Wow.
And I've been working for NOAA since 1987, so.
Man. How did you get started doing that?
Well, I went to college in biology, and as part of my biology major, I got to dive on coral reefs and just fell in love with the ocean. And I had also actually commercially fished as a kid for clams in the Great South Bay, Long Island. Oh. And so I just followed that passion for the ocean, ended up going to graduate school in oceanography, and then started my career in NOAA actually driving the big white NOAA ships. I started out as a NOAA Corps officer. For those that don't know in the audience, NOAA has its own officer corps to run those big white ships and their aircraft. And so I did that, and then I became a civilian for NOAA. I worked for the Fisheries Service for about 10 years, and then moved over to sanctuaries. So
that's interesting. I didn't know you worked for fisheries. Whereabouts did you work for fisheries?
For fisheries, I worked in the Southwest region on salmon conservation and recovery. I was based in Santa Rosa, California, but my range was from Santa Barbara all the way to the Oregon border. And then I spent about 4 years in Washington, D.C., also working on salmon there.
Okay, and then you came back to Santa Barbara for Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary.
That's right, yes.
Okay, and you've been there for about 11 years. So what really got you interested in the sanctuaries?
Well, the sanctuaries are a little bit of a unique entity in the federal government. Everyone's familiar with national parks, with national forests. And sanctuaries in 1972, the National Marine Sanctuaries Act created these things where it's almost a little bit like a national park / national forest, but in the ocean, where you find our nation's best, most special places, either for their ecological value, their biological value, or their cultural heritage. And through a public process, figure out how to protect them and what the boundaries should be so that we can pass them on in good shape to our children and grandchildren. And to me, working in fisheries with salmon, it seemed almost impossible to succeed. I felt with sanctuaries being a defined smaller area, it might be possible to have healthy and sound management of a defined geographic area.
You know, one of the things I like about sanctuaries is in your charter, recreation is a big part of what you do within the sanctuaries. So you kind of blend protection and actual use of the sanctuaries.
Yeah, the Act itself basically calls for to protect while allowing compatible use. Yep. And enjoyment, recreation is obviously a highly compatible use if done carefully with good practices.
With good practices. And actually, some of the things that we're doing, I was just talking a moment ago about best practices. And, you know, in just a second, we're going to find out a little bit about best practices and some of the things. And actually, working with best practices has been really fun, and particularly with you folks from the sanctuaries. As a matter of fact, Greg, if we can go to that clip right now, we'll learn about Gray's Reef Sanctuary best practices. Take it away, Greg.
Fishing Conservancy and Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary hosted the inaugural Best Practices Recreational Fishing Workshop in concert with the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries. The workshop took place on November 10, 2012 in Richmond Hill, Georgia, and featured recreational fishermen, including those that fish Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary. We would like to thank those fishermen who gave up a day on the water to share their best practices with other anglers and the marine science community. The marine scientists included Dr. George Sedbury, Dr. Chris Lowe, Robert Osborne, Karen Burns, and Dr. Gretchen Bath Martin also deserve our gratitude for investing their time and expertise in this unique project. Also above and beyond the call of duty, George Geiger did an impressive job in moderating the workshop. A huge thank you goes out to Georgia's CCA Executive Director Michael Denmark, along with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources SAFMC member Doug Hamans. And lastly, a special thanks goes out to the National Marine Sanctuaries Foundation and EDF for their support of this initial effort uniting the recreational fishing community with the marine science community.
Hi, I'm Michael Denmark, and I serve on the Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary Advisory Council. And one of the most important things when one is out fishing is striving to reduce the mortality of those fish that are caught and then released. And I encourage all of you to study different techniques, and there are hundreds of different techniques on how to reduce the fishing mortality by getting that hook out, by reducing barotrauma, and getting that fish back in the water as soon as possible. The faster you can get that fish into the water, the greater the likelihood that that fish will survive.
And when I release a fish, I prefer to use wet hands. It keeps the slime on the fish and off of me, which is nice. And it keeps the fish healthy, and try to keep it in the water and work on reviving it afterwards.
Cool.
My name is Matthew Sutter Sr., and I live at Magnolia Manor going on 5 years now. Quite heavily during the last 5 years, I live over in Magnolia Manor, and Magnolia Manor has 3 ponds, and they're all stocked. And they have a catch and release program. Now, and I fish primarily for catfish. And in this program, I can tell the difference now of the catch and release of the fish that have been saved since I've been there. And I do it with a simple technique. I file the barb off the hook.
Hey, welcome back to Real World Conservation, and thanks for that great message about best practices workshops. Best practices are ways that recreational fishermen can improve the way, what we do, and actually get together with some of the scientists. And I think you saw some of the scientists there. Dr. Chris Lowe has done some awesome work on best practices, and Dr. George Sedbury is actually a red snapper grouper, probably one of the leading authorities on the East Coast. So with that workshop, it was great, good information. But the key to best practices is not necessarily the science. The science has to get behind what recreational fishermen are doing. And as you could see, it was recreational fishermen coming forward with some really good suggestions. And now we're working with the scientists to get there. Now, in studio, I've got Chris Mobley. Chris, we're talking a little bit about best practices and actually about recreational fishing in the sanctuaries. Do you allow fishing in Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary?
We sure do, and I do it myself. There's fantastic, not only do we allow it, but as you know, it's some of the best fishing in Southern California. And whether it's calico bass, rockfish, white sea bass, I mean, it's fantastic angling out there. Anybody who hasn't gone needs to go. And there's a lot of different ways to get there, whether it be a charter boat, a friend's boat. I prefer a friend's boat than having to pay for my own. But it's awesome fishing out there.
I agree. I've had the chance to get out there and fish the Channel Islands, and it's just a wonderful place. Quick boat ride across the channel, and you're kind of like in another world out there. It's just a beautiful place, wonderful setting, absolutely pristine, and at the same time, some really, really good fishing.
Well, that's the thing. Just crossing the channel, you're likely to run across a school of 5,000 to 10,000 common dolphins. Right this time of year, right now, roughly June, the blue whales will be back. If you go off between Santa Cruz and Santa Rosa Island, there's a good chance you'll run into half a dozen blue whales, the largest creature to have ever lived on the earth. You're looking at the islands, there's bald eagles nesting on the islands now. If you're in some of those coves on the north side of Santa Cruz Island, you're likely to see bald eagles diving into the water. It's an incredible wilderness experience in every angle, and you're catching fish. I mean, what's not to like?
I absolutely agree. My favorite thing is bald fishermen out there catching fish. But on top of that, I think what you touch on is really, really important. That all too often we sit around and watch television, and except for this show, you don't get that same feeling as getting out really close to nature. Go across the channel and things absolutely change.
Well, life slows down, your blood pressure goes down, and it's a national park as well. And getting back to best practices, one of the things that I'm really happy is that the average American really wants to keep our environment clean and healthy, and certainly in Southern California, everyone makes that a premium. I don't know how much you've traveled around the world, but one of the things I notice, you travel around the world, people still just throw their garbage on the beach, they throw their litter out the window of their car in many countries. They don't even have the ethic of picking up their own trash. Fortunately, here in the U.S., we're way ahead on that, and we try to keep it clean. Fishermen know that it's a real bummer if you catch a pelican or a seagull in your fishing line, and you want to really avoid that. So people are predisposed to wanting to protect the parks and the sanctuaries, so that makes it easier for everybody.
Absolutely, and I want to get into one more thing. We talk about best practices, and the first thing that pops into mind is a lot of work has been done about barotrauma. We've got fish that, if you're catching a fish that lives in deep water, you bring it to the surface, and it's basically the reverse of the bends, the same thing that happens with divers. And how do you take care of them? And there are ways of getting them back down and recompressing them that makes an awful lot of sense and really help the survival. NOAA Fisheries did their 2011 stuff, released it last fall, and it just hit me with the look at the numbers there were amazing. We had over 10 million recreational fishermen out there. We caught 345 million fish, and we released almost 60% of those. We release 6 out of 10 fish we catch, and making sure that those fish are released in a healthy state. All of a sudden it makes it so very important. I mean, this is regulatory discards, this catch and release. There are a lot of reasons for putting these fish back, but my gosh, let's make sure that we get them out there and so they survive. Great things to do, but on top of that, the other thing one of the other things on best practices is make sure that we treat everything well. Take care of your monofilament fishing line. Don't throw it away. It just takes 2 minutes to take it back, recycle it, or at least make sure that it's disposed of properly so it doesn't tangle that gull out there or that pelican. We've got a lot of things that we can do to really help, not only help ourselves, but in the long run help the fisheries and make sure that there's more access in the future.
Yeah, well, we see it. The health out there of the resource, the water, the species, it's just really great. It's a great place. And a lot of that is because for years, everybody who's going out there really does their best to keep it clean and clean up after themselves and not leave stuff behind. I mean, accidents happen, but people do their best.
Absolutely, and one of the things is that we're going to talk about a little bit of an incentive to use best practices. And Greg, could we see that clip and find out about the Sanctuary Classic?
Classic combines the two things that I care a lot about, and I think because you're here it means that you care a lot about them too. One is fishing, getting out on the water with friends and family, and the other is conservation.
Hi, my name is Michael Denmark, and I love fishing, and I love to fish Gray's Reef. I'd like to invite you and your family to come out and fish the Sanctuary Classic.
I'd especially like you to participate in the Gray's Reef and Sanctuary's Classic Fishing Tournament and Photo Contest, which is taking place now.
Hello, I'm Captain Judy with Miss Judy Charters, and I fish out of Savannah, Georgia, and normally fish a lot at Gray's Reef Marine Sanctuary, which, by the way, is a great place to fish.
Hi, I'm Captain Mike Neal. I own Bull River Cruises, but one of the things that we do is we enjoy going offshore and fishing, and one of the greatest places to fish in coastal Georgia, Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary.
Hi, I'm Paul Michelle, Superintendent of the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. We're here to celebrate and showcase recreational fishing in a National Marine Sanctuary with the Sanctuary Classic. So come on out and fish and enjoy fishing in the National Marine Sanctuary.
You need to come on down and fish the wonderful Monterey Bay Sanctuary.
Hi, I'm Tom Raftican from the Sport Fishing Conservancy, and welcome to the Sanctuary Classic. The Sanctuary Classic is a fishing and photo contest that runs all summer long in all of the National Marine Sanctuaries, but we're featuring Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. It's free to enter the Classic, and we give away weekly prizes along with scholarships to kids at the end of the summer. Join us on the Sanctuary Classic at sanctuaryclassic.org.
Our sincere thanks goes out to all the great sponsors who have made the Sanctuary Classic a reality. Remember, it's so easy to sign up. Just go to www.sanctuaryclassic.org today and sign up for free. And then open the door to the great outdoors for your family, your friends, and your children. Get out and enjoy one of the great sanctuaries really soon. You won't regret it. And a very
movie.
Welcome back to Real World Conservation. Tom Raftican here. And thanks for that great information about the Sanctuary Classic. Sanctuary Classic is a fishing and photo contest that runs all summer long. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that right now from Chris Mobley, Superintendent of the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. Chris, we ran the Classic last year. Let's do it again this year.
I'm excited, Tom. It was a great concept. And we saw, for those that don't know, all sanctuaries have what are called sanctuary advisory councils. This is a body that meets about every 2 months. It includes representatives from all the agencies, but more importantly, a lot of members from the broad general public. We have business representative, education representative, tourism, non-consumptive and consumptive use of the sanctuary. So, and everybody embraced it. Even your hardcore environmentalist could embrace this contest because it wasn't promoting going out and catching as many fish as possible or the biggest fish. It was promoting having fun, enjoying fishing, doing it in a sustainable and ethical way, and having your kids get in touch with the natural world. So what's not to like? And just seeing the clips and the photos, the smiles on the kids' faces, that's really what it's all about.
It really is. And some of the clips from the clip that we just ran were actually taken out in the channel here fishing within the sanctuary. And Jenny Armstrong, who's our outreach coordinator at the Sport Fishing Conservancy, great lady. Her folks live here in La Conchita, and they got a boat. They spend a lot of time fishing the sanctuary. So. We're looking at doing the Sanctuary Classic again this year, and we're looking to kick off on World Oceans Day again.
Right, June 8th, and it's going to be a big shindig, I guess you could call it, out in Stearns Wharf, June 8th. And there'll be a booth for the Classic there, so people can come down and get more information, or they can go to our website, channelislands.noaa.gov, or your website, and get more information. And also we plan to put information in most of the tackle shops in the area. And so if anybody's interested, it's pretty easy to figure out how to get involved.
You know, Chris, it really has, it's been a thrill. Like you said, your Sanctuary Advisory Council, going in and talking to the folks there, you've got a very broad range of folks there. And really, I felt nothing but support from them. And again, you know, the focus on the Classic, really twofold. We run basically week-long photo contests, and the photo contest is send in a picture of you and the fish in the sanctuary, and that's really about the guidelines that, you know, obey your federal, state, local regulations, NOAA's Code of Ethical Angling, and then our best practices. And as long as you fall in line with those, I mean, that's all it takes to enter. It's a free-to-enter tournament, but we give away 10 $100 West Marine gift certificates every single week all summer long. So what a great incentive to get out there and do the right thing in the sanctuary.
And then the scholarships.
And the scholarship. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to catch you next. I'm glad you brought that up. Guy Harvey, who's probably the premier marine artist anywhere, I mean, just does incredible artwork, and along with that, you know, has the Guy Harvey Foundation. We'd asked them to be a judge, and Guy said, hey, well, not only will be a judge, we're going to give away 4 $1,000 scholarships, and those scholarships go out, all the pictures that are submitted, all summer long. You don't have to be a winner, a weekly winner or anything. They all kind of go in the hat, and then we take the kids' pictures out of that, and we've got a panel of judges, and that panel of judges picks out the 4 pictures that best exemplify kids fishing, family fishing values, conservation in the sanctuaries. And I mean, it's a really great way to get the kids out there and get a $1,000 college scholarship. So yeah, we give away scholarships and for a great cause, and some pretty good guidelines on it.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we kicked off the Sanctuary, the Classic last year with right here, going out in the channel and fishing. We've got pretty good access to the Channel Islands across the entire south coast here. A number of different charter boats going out there along with the private boats.
That's right, yeah. I mean, I think probably in this day and age, if you just go on the internet and Google fishing Channel Islands, you're bound to get hits on charter services. If you're an avid spear fisher, you can go on the dive boats, and they often have tailored trips that are just set up for folks that want to spearfish. During lobster season, they have tailored trips for folks that want to get lobster. So you can, even if you don't have a boat or don't have a friend with a boat, there's a lot of different ways to get out there and go fishing.
Yeah, Chris, I'm really happy that we're sitting here talking, and again, getting back, I've talked to a lot of the sanctuary managers in the course of the last year, and actually in the course of the last 2 years, and it really impresses on me how much you really want to get people actively involved in the sanctuaries, in the recreation, and that includes fishing and diving. You want to get folks out there and using this wonderful resource.
Well, there's several reasons for that. First of all, our ultimate mission is to protect the sanctuary, and we can't do that unless the public is behind that. And we have to have public engagement. And your statistics show that there's millions of recreational fishers that are already aware of the beauty of the islands. So they need to be part of this broader coalition to make sure that that place stays protected, and that they're engaged in a conversation with everybody and each other on how to actually pull that off.
I want to stop you right there on that word protected. One of the things that we do at the Sport Fishing Conservancy is understand that we've got very, very valuable resources out there, and that we need wardens to protect those resources, and we work hand in hand with them. And one of the things that we do is we put together a voluntary warden stamp, and actually, Greg, if you could run to that clip, let's hear a little bit about that warden stamp. Thanks.
Game wardens do an incredible job protecting our diverse natural resources. Sadly, special wardens programs have fallen victim to state budget cuts and need your help. Your $5 contribution for a California Game Warden stamp helps provide additional funding for needed specialized gear and training. You will receive this official decal and know that 100% of your contribution will go towards warden gear and training. Order at sportfishingconservancy.org. Great
information about warden stamps. And hey, you know, California is a big state. We don't have nearly enough game wardens, and they really could use your support. And a warden stamp is a voluntary stamp. It's $5, not a big deal to you, but it helps get them equipment training that the state can't afford. It goes into a special fund, and I will tell you that the folks that run the California game wardens, Mike Carrion and his predecessor, they said, hey, look, we put this money in, everything that comes in goes directly into the fund for the warden. So anyhow, pick up a warden stamp. They're great stamps anyhow, but grab one the next time when you pick up your fishing license. So I'm in the studio right now. I've got Chris Mobley from the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. Chris, we're talking about protecting the things you love, and getting out there, doing a little bit of fishing or diving out there helps getting that love moving.
Well, and the thing is, talking about the wardens, we need wardens. We work with the Coast Guard, the Cal Fishing, used to be Fish and Game, now Fish and Wildlife wardens. We work with the Park Service wardens. We work with also NOAA Fisheries, or NOAA wardens. But there are not that many of them, actually. And what we need is citizens, first of all, to be responsible on their own. But the more eyes we have on the water, if they see something that's not right going on, to report that. They can use CalTIP or other methods. They can get on, if it's bad enough, they can get on channel 16 or 13. But that's one of the things that our citizens do, is if they see someone doing something real bad, they let people know about it, and then we can go and get after it.
Absolutely, and I'm going to get a little plug in here. We've been doing an awful lot of work with CalTIP. There's a CalTIP Foundation which basically funds the CalTIP Wardens program, so that and it's rewards for people calling, anonymous rewards for people that call in infractions. And actually, April Wakeman, who are our programs director at the Sport Fishing Conservancy, is actually president of the CalTIP Foundation. So we try and keep an active role there and work with the wardens, and we'll have another program coming up working with the wardens later on this summer to try and improve eyes and ears on the water. We work really, really hard to get good programs going, and they only work as well as we go along with them. And most of our recreational fishermen, I believe, the vast majority do a good job out there. So we try and reward them with the classic.
That's right. Yeah, and the wardens discriminate. I mean, they know if someone hasn't done that much damage and it was really an honest mistake. A lot of times a novice fisherman, the rules can be confusing, and they'll usually give them a break, give them a warning. They're mainly interested in people that absolutely know the rules, but they're essentially professional poachers, such as you get on the North Coast with red abalone.
Oh, yeah.
Or in other parts of the state, there's serious bear poaching that goes on for Chinese medicine and so forth. So don't ever, if you're just an average fisherman, I don't think you need to be worried about your interactions with the wardens. You're going to find that they're going to be helpful and gauge what's going on in a very fair way.
It will never cut you a lot of slack, but the thing is, if you've got a warden stamp on your tackle box or on your boat, at least it starts off, it'll put a smile on his or her face, which I think is a step in the right direction. And again, like I said, most of the folks we've got out there are looking to do things the right way. I mean, that's precisely what we're trying to do with best practices, is reward folks and get folks moving in the right direction on this stuff.
I mean, the other thing is, some of the most avid hunters and anglers I've ever seen are the wardens. So don't think of it us and them. They're just like you. They want to get out there and catch stuff too.
That's the good news. They understand. Hey, Chris, we got about 30 seconds left. This thing runs really quick. Anything else you want to say about the sanctuaries or
I just want to say, you're welcome to come down to the sanctuaries anytime. I'd love to engage and talk to people. I'd love to hear from you, what you're seeing out there, what your concerns are. And all my staff are really great people. You may know some of them, so just get together with me or my staff, and we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Chris Mobley, Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on here. And hey, folks, remember, you're not having fun unless you're fishing. So we'll catch you again next week.